Finally, we get to the last two movies in the Hellraiser series. After the disastrous Rick Bota movies, this series seemed to be dead. For years there was nothing new from the series apart from the news of a remake being in the works, until 2011 when Dimension Films had to either release a new Hellraiser movie or lose the rights and possibility of making a remake. So did they speed up production on the remake or surrender the franchise rights? Nope, instead they made an entirely new movie from scratch in a matter of weeks. Hellraiser Revelations is everything you'd expect from a movie that was rushed out in less than a month. The movie is like The Room levels of bad, incredibly incompetent, stupid, and lazy. The film is about two kids, Steven and Nico, who go away to Mexico for a few days of partying and having sex. While they're there, they are given the box by a weird homeless guy. Nico is swallowed into the box and Steven is let free for some reason. He aimlessly goes off and gets with a prostitute, because when your best friend dies, that's the first thing you'd go and do. However, while he's banging her, the box speaks to him and tells him to kill her. He kills her and Nico comes out of the bed and tells him to bring him more people so he can regenerate himself. So they go around killing prostitutes so Nico can eat them. A year later, the family of Steven and Nico are mourning losing them when all of a sudden Steven returns. Then he snaps and holds them hostage and it turns out that he is in fact Nico using Steven's skin or something. I don't actually really know what happened in this movie, to be honest. Look, there's no sugarcoating this. This is one of the worst horror movies I've ever watched. I've reviewed some of the worst movies ever made on this channel, and worryingly enough, this film is right up there with some of the worst. This is what you'd expect to see from a student-made fan film on a budget of £50 and a free lunch. The sets are honestly some of the worst I've ever seen. The shots inside the main house were fine because, you know, it was just a house. But anytime they're outside of the house and like in Mexico, it's laughably awful. There's a scene in a bar that honestly just looks like it was shot in someone's shed. Not to mention later on there's another scene in a strip club that was just filmed in some random guy's basement. They couldn't even afford to put music in the background of the strip club scene, so there's a conversation being done purely through whispers in the middle of a strip club. Like other dancers just dancing in complete silence. Like there's not even any background talking or anything, it's complete silence except for the three guys talking. The special effects are pretty much average, but to be fair, there was nothing too demanding in the film. Most of the effects could be created with a little bit of latex and some fake blood. Like, it looks super cheap, but it could be a lot worse, I guess. The director Victor Garcia's directing style is some of the most amateurish I've ever seen. He doesn't hide the cheapness in the sets or costumes. If anything, he makes them look worse with these terrible shots and poor lighting. It's obvious that everyone in the crew had little motivation with the film and were just rushing to get every single scene done quickly. That is especially evident in the performances from the actors in the movie. The acting in this movie is inexcusable. The actors are all very low-level actors who you've most likely never heard of, which isn't unusual for the series. But the difference here is that I feel like the actors are low-level for a reason. To be fair to the actors, they weren't actually given much to work with. The script was atrocious and the director just didn't seem to care about the film. Like, I'm sure even someone like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino would have done the exact same performance if they were in the film. So I can imagine that all the actors just wanted to get everything done quickly so they could go home and forget about the movie until the check clears. It feels like every scene was just done in one take. There's so many moments where the actors make really strange choices that don't pan out, and it leads to some really hilarious moments. The film is actually the first Hellraiser movie ever to have a new actor playing Pinhead, and he was really awful. The voice work was okay. They got a pretty prolific voice actor to do it. He could have been a lot better, I guess, but he wasn't awful. The guy who does all the physical performance though was absolutely terrible. Not only did the makeup on him look horrendous and he just looked really weird, he just gave an all-around bad performance. It was so obvious they dubbed his voice in because very rarely did it sync up okay. It looked so lazy. There was legitimately a moment where I'm pretty certain the voice actor said a completely different line than the physical actor did. Doug Bradley was originally approached to reprise the role but turned it down because he wasn't confident in how quickly they were trying to force the film out, and also he considered the script the worst thing he'd ever read. Considering the caliber of movies that he said yes to, that is quite a feat for this to be the worst script he's ever read. The film is essentially a copy of the first film except with no motivation or anything interesting, and I mean that in multiple ways. There was no motivation from the people making the film, but also there was no motivation from the characters in the movie. We never know why Nico is so hell-bent against killing his family. At one point he says it's because his mum is sleeping with his girlfriend's dad, but like, I don't think that's a worthy excuse to kill two entire families. It literally makes no sense. Nothing in this film makes sense. The film's existence doesn't really make sense, to be fair. I completely understand the extreme backlash from everyone towards this movie. Even Clive Barker refused to have his name mentioned when talking about the film, and I don't blame him. I can't wait to get rid of the DVD after these reviews are done and never have it in my house again. Unless Judgment is 2 hours of Pinhead constipated on the toilet, which is what I expected from the cover of this film, it's undoubtedly going to be way better than this movie. I give Hellraiser Revelations a 0 out of 10. And finally we get to the most recent movie in the Hellraiser series, Hellraiser Judgement, which is in every single way a huge step up from Revelations. But to be fair, that wasn't entirely hard considering how exceptionally terrible that movie was. Judgment was a passion project for writer/director Gary Tunnicliffe. I'm pretty sure I just butchered the pronunciation of that word, but oh well, it's done now. He was on the special effects team for every single Hellraiser movie from the third movie to Hellworld, and he even pitched the idea for Judgment when he first started working on the series. After Revelations, Dimension Films faced losing the rights to the series once again and hired him to write and direct the new sequel. After rejecting multiple pitches for what he wanted to do, they told him to write a script treatment, and if they still didn't like it, he'd have to make the movie without receiving any payment. However, they eventually said yes, and away he went. The film was completed in early 2017 but was shelved due to Dimension Films' lack of interest in the film. However, after the Harvey Weinstein allegations came out, they needed every bit of money they could get, so they announced it would be released in February of this year. I'll be honest, after Revelations and also after seeing the IMDb score for the movie, I didn't have much hope for Judgment. But I have to admit the film ended up being a lot better than I expected it to be. It's by no means great, and honestly there's a lot about it I didn't really like, but it ended up being much better than it had any right to be. The film was partly inspired by the murder mystery style of Inferno, which led to a criticism about how similar the two movies are. And although I do completely see that, I think this movie does actually stand out on its own. The film starts off in Hell, where we see a faction known as the Stygian Inquisition. This faction abducts sinners from Earth and passes judgment towards them. This is probably one of the most interesting bits in the film, even if it is a little bit too disgusting and hard to watch at times. Like, there are serious moments in this that actually gave me like human centipede torture porn vibes, which, yeah, it doesn't work. Although honestly, these bits do not have a huge effect on the plot, if any effect at all. The movie follows two brothers, Sean and David, who are detectives investigating a serial killer. A third detective, Christine, is assigned to help on the case and to keep an eye on Sean, who is believed to have alcohol and substance problems. The case they are investigating is of a killer known as the Preceptor, whose murders are based on the 10 Commandments. When Sean starts investigating a lead, he is led to an abandoned house which leads to the Stygian Inquisition's domain. Sean escapes the domain and runs away with the box. After that, they carry on the investigation while Sean is haunted by the visions of the Cenobites. Pretty much everything else in the movie happens within the next 20 minutes, and there's plot twists and stuff everywhere. This is actually an incredibly short movie, so the plot gets wrapped up insanely quick. So what are my thoughts on the movie? It exists, I guess. Like, I didn't hate it. There was bits I did actually quite like as well, but overall I didn't really love it or anything, or think it was anything special. There are moments I liked, but there's also not a lot that really stands out. It's full of a lot of moments that just went nowhere and ended up being kind of forgettable. I liked the plot, and I think if the stuff that links into the Hellraiser universe was actually cut out of the movie, it would be a pretty decent murder mystery. But the stuff with the Stygian Inquisition holds literally no weight and ends up being really forgettable. Although it's kind of cool, it just doesn't have any impact on the plot and just feels kind of pointless. The film feels like another one that was written and then forced into becoming a Hellraiser movie, which is weird because the film was planned to be a Hellraiser movie from the beginning. But if there's something I have to actually give some praise towards in the film, it has to be the new actor of Pinhead. He is actually pretty good. He doesn't have many scenes, but I thought he did a decent job. He is nowhere near as good as Doug Bradley, but I quite liked him in the movie. He's a huge improvement over whatever that monstrosity was. Every other actor in the film is just kind of okay. No one is terrible and no one's great. And I think that's something that just kind of sums up the movie. I somewhat enjoyed the movie. I don't regret watching it, but there was nothing standout that would make me want to watch it again. I pretty much forgot everything that happened after watching it, so I can't really say much more. It's a fun little time waster, but nothing amazing and one of the weaker movies in the series. But I guess at least they actually tried with this movie, unlike the last movie. So I give Hellraiser Judgement a 6.5 out of 10. It's a shame to end the series review this way with a film that is just kind of nothing, but I feel like that actually kind of sums up my feelings towards a lot of the series. Although there are some really good moments, the majority of the sequels are just kind of forgettable and don't hold a candle to the original movie. So now it's that time of the review where we take a look back at the series and rank the films from worst to best. Number 10 and worst in the series is, unsurprisingly, Hellraiser Revelations. Number 9 is Hellraiser Deader. Number 8, Hellraiser Bloodline. Number 7, Hellraiser Hellworld. Number 6, Hellraiser Hellseeker. Number 5, Hellraiser Judgment. Number 4, Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth. Number 3, Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Number 2, Hellraiser Inferno, and of course the number 1 and best movie in the series is the original Hellraiser movie. So it was a lot of fun to go through this series, and from the response I've been getting on these videos, it seems that you guys have enjoyed watching me talk about it. And I just want to say thanks for everyone watching all these videos so far. It was a lot of fun. I've got plenty more series reviews planned out soon, and I'm even planning on returning to some of my older series reviews and talking about the new sequels that have been released since those reviews. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.